Hello everybody. I'm Rene Ramos, director of the Lynn and Louis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives, and this is Rewind, the show that looks back on Florida's past with historic film and video. It's time for another trip back into the past, so sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Rewind.
It's amazingly easy to get Quaaludes in Miami. Just go to a clinic and ask. Plans move ahead for a new sports stadium near Calder Racetrack. And the University of Miami has a new president, Thaddeus K. Foote. This is Montage. Hello, I'm Joe Averill. This year, a crackdown on clinics that indiscriminately gave out prescriptions for the sedative drug commonly known as Quaalude shut down a few of these operations, and many area drugstores have adopted a policy not to fill any prescriptions for this drug. But despite these efforts, Diana Gonzalez-Duruthi reports the prescription Quaalude business is still flourishing.
How easy is it to get Quaaludes in Miami? All you need spend is 1 hour and $100 cash. We received an anonymous phone call a few weeks ago giving us the names and numbers of 4 clinics in Dade County where one can easily get Quaalude prescriptions, along with the pharmacies where those prescriptions will be filled. The caller told us he contacted several police departments to give them this information, but no one he spoke with seemed interested.
I can understand why a police department may not take action with that kind of a call. The problem is that the obvious evasion of the law by a physician is obvious to you and I, perhaps, but would not necessarily be obvious to a jury who we have to convince beyond a reasonable doubt that the doctor, an MD, is engaging in an illegal activity.
Montage producer Nancy Ross set out to get appointments at all 4 clinics we had been told would easily give out Quaalude prescriptions. The first 2 she called, both in South Miami, refused to give her appointments. Each required the name of a current patient who had referred her to the clinic.
And it's got to be a current patient or someone that's been there.
The other places are in North Miami. All it took was 2 phone calls and we had our appointments.
I'd like to come in either Friday morning or Monday.
At 11:15 Monday morning, February 22nd, producer Nancy Ross walked into North Miami Medical Services on Northeast 123rd Street and 16th Avenue. An hour later, she came out $100 poorer, but with a prescription for 45 Quaalude tablets. During her visit, Nancy first talked with a psychologist. She told him she had been nervous and under a lot of stress.
He asked me if I was sleeping well. I told him not at all, and that was basically the end of that conversation. After that point, I went into a nurse's office, and the nurse took my blood pressure and weighed me and took my height, and that was the extent of that examination. Finally, I went into the 3rd office and saw what I imagined to be was the doctor. I had no way of knowing that he was an MD. He didn't wear any kind of identification. Throughout the 10 minutes or so that I sat with him, he took my reflexes and listened to my heart. He did not exchange 2 words with me in the entire time that I sat in his office. I was given these prescriptions and not told anything about what I was being given or how to take them.
She was given another appointment 4 weeks later and told where to have her prescription filled. At 1:30 that same day, Nancy had another appointment, this time at the Dade Obesity and Stress Clinic off North Miami Beach Boulevard and Northeast 9th Avenue. 1 hour and $100 later, she came out with a prescription for another 45 Quaaludes.
I walked in, the waiting room was very crowded. People were openly talking about filling prescriptions and taking drugs, and the stress factor seemed to be somewhat of a farce. I walked in, I had an interview, about a 5-minute interview with a psychotherapist, quote unquote, even though I saw no affiliation with a hospital or certificates to lead me to believe he was a doctor. He asked me an interesting question. He asked me why I was there, and I told him I was there for reasons connected with stress. He told me if it were himself, he would admit that he was just there to buy Quaaludes or to get a Quaalude prescription. Afterwards, I went and gave some blood to a nurse. My blood pressure was taken, pulse was taken, heartbeat was measured by a doctor, and I was given a prescription after I paid $100 in cash.
Nancy went to get the day's first prescription filled at the pharmacy that had been specified by the clinic. Within a few minutes, we had the Quaaludes. The bottle was labeled meth, short for methaqualone, the technical name for the drug. Inside were 45 tablets. Their street value is about $5 each pill. We paid $39.95 for the prescription, which included a bottle of 30 stress tab vitamins, apparently a must when you get Quaaludes from one of these clinics, because the second prescription we got also included some stress tabs. But if a proposed bill is approved by the Florida legislature and Governor Bob Graham, methaqualone will be illegal as a prescription drug in Florida.
The doctor runs very little chance of a criminal conviction, and that's why I think the stress clinics are still operating. From my point of view, the only way to eliminate the prescription of Quaaludes by these stress clinics is by legislation.
Methaqualone is technically classified as a hypnotic sedative. Its purpose is supposed to be for the cure of insomnia. But Quaaludes have a popularity unlike any other prescribed sedative and is one of the top so-called recreational drugs. Jim Dubé is a drug information specialist for Upfront, a drug abuse counseling agency.
Quaaludes have a lot of uninhibiting effects, so the person feels loose, psychologically relaxed, physically relaxed. A lot of people seem to report the effects as being like taking a lot of tranquilizer, but with a slight euphoric feeling as well, a lot of well-being. And also, in spite of the fact that you see people on high doses really stumbling around, you seem to be able to maintain at least some degree of being ambulatory on Quaaludes, perhaps a little more than on barbiturates.
What will happen if Quaalude prescriptions are made illegal in Florida? Some fear that bootleg copies of the real thing will supply the overwhelming demand for this drug, and buyers will end up getting a pill that may look authentic, but is definitely not methaqualone.
Bootleg Quaaludes are of very varying qualities. We, through our analysis service at Upfront, have found quite a few Quaaludes, either containing megadoses, very high doses of diazepam, that's Valium, and also very high doses of phenobarbital. Now, phenobarbital has the longest half-life in the body of almost any sedative drug, so a person might actually stay inebriated for up to 4 days.
Well, need I say drugs can be dangerous, especially if you are not sure what it is you are taking. Because legally manufactured Quaaludes are still available in Florida, bootleg copies get lost in the crowd and they are not so easy to detect. But the proposed state bill outlawing this drug by prescription is expected to pass, and its sponsors hope this measure will also help curb the use of counterfeits, because buyers will know that Quaaludes they get are probably not the real thing. This past Monday's meeting of the 9-member Dade County Sports Authority may be the last one ever. That's because a new 18-member regional sports authority is on the way. Ed Odell offers this overview of the plans for South Florida's new multi-purpose stadium.
The Dade and Broward County Commissions rewrote history and broke the back of a possibly damaging controversy when they met on February 19th. At that first meeting of the two elected bodies, the commissioners agreed to jointly fund the construction of a new multi-purpose sports facility here near the Dade-Broward line at the Lake Lucerne site.
For many years, Broward County has been interested in building a sports facility on our own. Dade County was interested in doing the same thing. Every time each major county tried to pursue it on their own, it didn't work.
So Broward offered Dade a deal it couldn't refuse. If Dade would make the 160 acres near the county line the primary site for stadium construction, Broward would offer a 50-50 deal for 50% of the cost, 50% of the controls. Stadiums just ain't what they used to be. Patrons of the Orange Bowl are certainly glad to hear that, but that's also what makes the new bowls cost so much. The Orange Bowl is a dinosaur. It was designed for one sport in a 1.5 sport town. To build a similar structure seems a Stone Age concept. But when you move towards the multi-purpose sports facilities of contemporary times, you face contemporary costs. $175 million rounds off the top estimate on South Florida's joint effort. It was obviously a match made in the accountant's office. Soon the honeymoon will be over, and everyone involved will have to face the realities of this marriage for convenience. For neighborhoods in the area, property values could go up, as well as noise levels and traffic congestion. While visiting a neighborhood adjoining the property on which the sports facility will be built, we met two area residents. One lives in the North Dade community we were visiting, the other just across the county line in Broward. While both expressed a need for more information on the exact plans for the location of the stadium on the 421-acre site near Calder Racetrack, they also expressed concerns.
I have an experience when the racetrack is on, and at 6 o'clock when I'm going home from work, it's murder.
Yes.
So obviously, when that happens, if we do get this stadium there, it might be a little more.
I personally don't like the idea.
Why is that?
It will be disturbing in every way because you will be having a lot of noise around the place, a lot of traffic, and you will be uncomfortable in a way.
Mm-hmm. You think it would be good for the area?
Well, I have mixed feelings about that. On one hand, I think that it will provide a lot of work for people, maybe in the immediate area, and probably put us on the map a little bit more. But on the other hand, it's going to cause a lot of problems depending on the exit and entrances that they have to get in and out of the park.
We think we might be able to work out some kind of a joint venture deal on the Lake Lucerne property. At least we hope so. The Orange Bowl land and Miami Stadium land, we have to see what the city of Miami does with their legitimate interests, but at this point we're not sure. And we're also not sure of the Turnpike Access Road problem at Lake Lucerne, although we're working on that. So
Rick Harrow is the coxswain on this upriver race to get a new stadium built. The race is against inflation, and a figure of $1 million a month was given for one delay. So Harrow, the man steering the boat, is determined to make a sprint out of it. While the two county commissions made history, there was Rick Harrow, barking the stroke, tiller in hand, timetable in mind.
And the key to the 19th meeting was that we wouldn't stop, we wouldn't miss a beat. We're hiring some consultants with the old 9-member board, and then in mid-April, hopefully, assuming everything goes right with the two county ordinances, we hire a new set of consultants, and we will not have skipped a beat, and I think that's very important.
It might do us well to take pause here and run down a few facts about the new stadium and where it stands. We'll call them knowns and unknowns. Emil and Lawrence Morton have donated 160 acres of a 421-acre site bounded by Northwest 27th Avenue on the west, the Florida Turnpike on the east, from about 190th Street to 200th. It is not known what other development may take place along the remaining 261 acres. An attorney close to the Morton interest said the Mortons may be looking to sell the remainder of that property. The sale price should escalate with the firm indication of the multi-million-dollar project slated for the area. The Dade and Broward County Commissions have agreed to fund the project jointly. It is not known what far-reaching impact the settlement of the final compromise will have on how the stadium is constructed or operated. Funding sources have been identified, but no one knows what will work or how much revenue can be guaranteed. Neither county government wants to push for property tax increases. The cost of the complex at Lake Lucerne borders on $175 million with a $10 to $15 million a year operating deficit. However, it is not known how many of the proposed events might have to be cut from the package to either lower cost or keep it in a reasonable range. A new domed, multi-purposed stadium will give South Florida an aggressive posture in bargaining for pro sport franchise expansion teams. Broward's 50-50 entree means issues like the dome may be reevaluated.
When the two counties merged the cooperation with the Joint Sports Authority, we defended very zealously the dome decision as one of the major decisions that we put a lot of time and money in making.
A prospective Sports Authority member from Broward holds short of saying he is satisfied with all the former Sports Authority's plans and indicates a debate on the issue of the dome is forthcoming.
There's a debate whether it should be domed or not domed. The original Sports Authority said it should be domed, but I'm sure the debate on it will be healthy, and I'm sure we're probably going to agree more than disagree on how the shape of the stadium should be built.
In the final analysis, one might wonder just how much Dade County is giving up in its deal with Broward. A so-called symbolic gesture has Dade de-annexing and giving up a parcel of land to make the 50-yard line of the new stadium the county line. One thing for sure, according to Miami Mayor Maurice Ferre, the new Sports Authority, by moving to a regional location, has lost the revenue to be gained by the proposed sale of the Orange Bowl and Miami Stadium properties.
Obviously, the city's not going to turn over the property for the funding of a stadium outside the city. But on the other hand, if the Sports Authority assumes the responsibility of building, say, a Coliseum for the city of Miami and turning it over to us, we might swap.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
We thought it was time that we, I guess more unofficially, introduced you to the new president of the University of Miami, Thaddeus K. Foote. Tad to his friend. It is Tad, right? Not,
yes, sir.
Not Ted. Tad to his friends, former newspaper reporter. Every time I see somebody who becomes a president of something, I think of John Kennedy's remark that he uttered soon after becoming president of the United States, in which he remarked that he thought, gee, once he became president, he just had to push a button and get it done, and found out that that was the least of his powers, that it seemed like he could get nothing done. Do you ever get that feeling?
Yes, sometimes, but not often. I have a lot of good people that are working with me in that good university, and essentially things happen. They don't always happen as fast as I would like, but they're happening.
Yeah. Let's talk about the different views of education in America, and it has changed since the end of World War II. And now I get the feeling that we're going back to a more, well, I think we went through various phases, and I think we're coming out of a vocational phase, let's call it for sake of a better word, that college is a place you learn certain skills to get jobs. I have a feeling we're returning to a more formal sense that college should be a time to study literature, art, economics, more fundamental things. Do you agree with my observations, or do you see it
I think it's a little too early to say. The last 25 years, let's say, in American higher education have been extraordinary, just extraordinary. There's been more money put into education than ever in history. There have been more students educated than ever in history. It was a time that spanned other social currents like the Vietnam years and all of that, when colleges and universities were tested as never before. And a lot of things happen in higher education, some of them very good, some of them not so good as perceived in retrospect. I think we're going through a time of very deep transition in education, not only in universities, but throughout American education, high schools, elementary schools, when people are asking again, what are the institutions there for? What should they be doing? What should they be doing extremely well, and what should they stop doing? And that includes a re-examination of curricular decisions of 10 and 20 years ago, and in some cases a turning back of the clock to more classic times, if you will, with more of an emphasis on broad and deep liberal education and less of an emphasis on so-called skills training of the kind that you suggest. But I don't think it's quite true to say, quite accurate to say yet, that that is sweeping the nation. Right. It is beginning to happen, and I personally think it's a healthy development in many respects. The trick is to have a curriculum, to have an educational undertaking that takes the student across the breadth and depth of human history and knowledge, the great classics, the great thinkers, the great principles from art to physics, of human experience, human knowledge, but at the same time doesn't become stultifying, so that you have also a curriculum that is open to new ideas, that's open to the crazy question that's crazy today and brilliant tomorrow. And we're still in the midst of a rebalancing of those two extremes, if I can oversimplify.
Yeah. We also have had a preponderance of schools feeling that they must get involved in the community in which they find themselves. Now, I have a feeling that that's tending away, that the schools are going back to the more classic sense that we're kind of an oasis in a community, and we are there for a specific function of education, and we are not there for a sociological function for the rest of the community. What's your view on that?
Let's take the University of Miami, where I now work, and proudly. We have 15,000 students. We have 5,000 employees, including 1,400 faculty members. We have a budget of $250 million that has a tremendous multiple effect on this community. In other words, we are a great, big, important institution, whatever our work was. And therefore, as an institutional citizen of this community, in that capacity, we should be a very, very good citizen. We should do all that we can as a great big business, if you will, to do what any big business could to make this as good a community as it could possibly be. But we're also a university where our principal missions are teaching and research. We're a major research institution, one of the leading ones in the country now. And those are doing those two things well, teaching and research, with the service that can come out of that to the community is what we're there for. The best contribution we can make to the South Florida community is to be the best university we can possibly be, to attract outstanding teachers, outstanding students, outstanding scholars, with all that that means to the community. And we could talk about that all evening, of course. But in that respect, there are many things that can be done entirely consistent with being a first-rate teaching institution and a first-rate scholarly institution that also directly help the community. In the School of Medicine, for example, we treat hundreds of thousands of patients a year in this community. In the School of Law, we train lawyers. We work in the courts. Our students are out there in the clinical fields. The Rosenstiel School, we have a great deal to do with the water side of this community. In the music school, we add so much, I like to think, and I think people would agree, that's directly good for the community. So I guess the answer to your question is we hopefully are a beneficial influence in this community, mainly overall, beyond just being a big institution that I hope does good here just by existing here. Mainly, however, through whatever contributions we can make to our principal missions, which are teaching and research.
Sports. I know a lot of people feel bugged that sports occupy such a seemingly inordinate position in so many schools' existence. And your school is certainly no exception. The sudden preeminence of the football team has taken over. I mean, no one got excited when the medical school was called one of the best in the country, like they have over the Hurricanes being ranked. Now, why is that?
I think it's because sports has a natural appeal, a natural excitement to lots of people, citizens of the university, students, alumni, faculty members, but lots of other people that touches some fairly deep things in the American psyche. I think that sports are a very healthy part of the university's offering, so long as they don't get out of balance with the main purpose of the university. And I think that sports at the University of Miami are not out of balance. I think it's marvelous that we have one of the top football teams, had one of the top football teams in the country, and next year I have every confidence we'll also have one of the top football teams of the country, because it brings a sense of spirit and fun and focus and excitement, enthusiasm and community energy to our university, not only locally but nationally. The danger again is if people start thinking that universities exist to field football teams, not to teach students, and to make advancements in physics and chemistry and philosophy and English and the rest. They can do both. First-rate intercollegiate athletics can coexist not only peacefully but fruitfully with first-rate intellectual endeavors also. And I think that that will continue to be the case at this university.
And lastly, how does the president of a university, who really is at the top of a very powerful pyramid, maintain his equilibrium and remember that he is not omniscient like all of us, and that he needs people around him saying, that's a bad idea, Mr. President?
The best way you do it is to surround yourself with people who are willing and entirely able to tell you when they think you're wrong, and to do so directly, and then to remember to listen as well as talk as you do your work.
Indeed. Well, you seem to be accomplishing that. You have established an enormous popularity in your short time here, and we look forward to seeing you for many years.
Very kind. I feel warmly welcomed here. Thank you.
Thank you. I know I speak for everybody. Thaddeus K. Foote, President of University of Miami, thanks for being with us. We'll be right back.
Miami-Dade College has career paths in anything you want to be. What's your story? Be global. Be cutting edge. Be inventive. Be investigative. Be a hero. What do you want to be? Be the best. Be you. Be MDC.
We used to just call it drunk driving, but today police are coping with drivers who have swallowed, smoked, snorted, or injected all kinds of things, and the number of innocent people killed and crippled by drivers who were not in control of themselves or their cars has become truly a national tragedy. Next week on Montage, we'll see how the law is fighting back. And I'll talk with journalist, novelist, and espionage expert Robert Moss, whose new book is about killer satellites in space, not so far from truth. That's our Montage for this week. I'm Joe Averill.
That's about it for this edition of Rewind. Just time to remind you that Rewind features historical, film and video from the Lynn and Lewis Wolfson II Florida Moving Image Archives. To see more from the Wolfson Archives collections, visit our website, wolfsonarchives.org. You can search the archives catalog and watch video online. And be sure to connect to our YouTube channel, where you will find hundreds of carefully curated clips, or link to the Wolfson Archives Facebook page to keep up with our busy calendar of historical happenings. Until next time, I'm Rene Ramos. Thanks for watching.